BizQuik podcast hits on the struggles and advantages of being an entrepreneur. It's for anyone who's made the commitment to burn the boats and not look back. Are you a busy entrepreneur or small business owner trying to do it all? Then this podcast is for you. Corey and Julie will take you through the details of building a strong business. Hit the subscribe button and gear up for another episode of BizQuik Podcast.
Hello and welcome to BizQuik. I'm Corey.
I'm Julie.
And on today's show, we've got Anthony Papalardo and Ryan Wilson of FiveFifty. They are SEO experts out of Denver, Colorado. Let's try and get that correct. And we're going to talk to them about SEO, building brand awareness, and all that fun stuff today. But before we jump into that, we're going to talk about our own SEO experiences.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to say I do hope that you can continue to have marbles in your mouth through the entire episode because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
SEO, what is it? Why do we need it?
Are you asking me? I was hoping no.
Let's wait. Should we wait for Ryan and Anthony?
Let's get the experts on. No, we've been working with Ryan and Anthony for 6 months now, a little over 6 months.
Yeah.
And just working on building our website, building the content out so that we rank better when, in Google searches and all of that. And it is like, I knew it was something that was going to be involved. It was going to require a lot of work, but it is even more involved than I thought. I remember when we had our first meeting after we hired them, and they kind of listed out the work that was going to have to happen for the website, and you just shut down. Your face, like, look on your face, you were just like, there's not enough hours in the day to do all of this.
I was emotionally bankrupt.
Yeah, you died on the call, and I was like, no, like, we're not doing all of this, and we're not doing it all today either. Like, this is.
Yeah, SEO is truly a long-term play. It is not something that just, you launch a business and then you're ranked number one on Google. It doesn't. That's not how it happens.
I'm sure there's probably a way to pay a lot of money for that to happen. But
Amazon.
Yeah, but if you want it to happen organically, and that's the way that most, if not all, small business owners have to do it, it takes 6 months because Google, they only check the internet. There's probably a term for it, scrape it, scroll it. I think scroll is the word. But they just go through and they kind of like catalog all of the sites on a regular basis, and they do it at a very high level regularly. And then like the deeper they go, more changes you make, etc. The less often that gets cataloged, so to speak, by Google. And then like there's all sorts of crazy stuff that you need to know about, like using H1 headers versus H2 headers, and links on your page, and backlinks
and all that stuff. I just had a really great idea for a future podcast, Corey, and I'm hoping you'll say yes.
Okay.
What if we did an episode that you and I explain things about our business that we don't understand?
Okay.
Right? So like you can explain how social media works and how you post, things on Instagram and use hashtags, and I can explain how we pay using QuickBooks.
Yeah, or just how numbers work in general.
Hey, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, but there's so much that goes into it that like you have to be very aware of everything that you're typing. For at least one of us, they're not very aware of what's being typed, and some of us like to use a lot of words.
I feel like you're talking about me.
Yes. But like when we come up with like page titles and stuff like that, which is fine to have a very lengthy page title, but if you're going like the URL, you need to go in, and for me, I have to remember to go in and to like edit the URL so that it's shorter, and there's all sorts of fun stuff like that you just don't think about because it's not natural to think about it like that way.
I've gotten my hand slapped a number of times for using more than 70 characters on titles.
And then give me a hard time. And you're like, "What? This isn't like an Instagram post." And I'm like, "I know, but like this is a different rule. We can use 1 million if we want, but."
Like, why are you always trying to change me, Corey?
Just trying to make things a little more efficient.
Yeah. So, but the whole process for SEO, a lot of times especially people that are launching a business and don't really have a strong background or understanding of it, just tend to think it's this thing you do once and then you don't think about it again, and that the rankings are relatively easy, and they don't understand all of the math and the logic that goes into SEO and rankings.
Yeah, and after our conversation today that we had with the people who help us with advertising, apparently nobody but Google knows some things about how the internet works, according to Google. So
that can't be a surprise.
Yes.
That cannot be a surprise.
So yeah, it's no surprise, and it is definitely one of those things where, like, if you want your website to be ranked or noticed or whatever, it pays to have somebody do the work for you. Mm-hmm. And by do the work for you, tell you how to do a lot more work.
Yeah.
Because what that turns into be.
But let's be honest. You enjoy the assignments that we get from Anthony and Ryan.
I do like them. I just don't have as much time to do them as I would like to.
I know. I want to kind of get them finished, though, so we can be done with it.
I think it's a never-ending battle.
It sure feels like every month when they send the report, it's like, well, how did we break that many things again? What are you doing over there, Corey?
God, that drives me insane. I'm like, this wasn't there last time. What did you go in behind me, Julie, and do something to the website?
It's crazy. But all right, well, let's bring Ryan and Anthony on and talk about all things SEO and see if they can explain to our listeners how it actually works.
All right, see you after the break.
Hey everyone, if you're like most entrepreneurs out there, time is not something you ever seem to have enough of. We get it. There are a million things that need your attention both in business and in your personal life. That's why we created Time Bomb. This is a self-paced course designed to help you determine what your time is worth and where you should be spending those precious hours every day. Right now, we have an option to buy the bundle, which also includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time. It's a $70 deal you're getting for only an additional $30. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life.
All right, and welcome back to the show. We've got Anthony and Ryan from FiveFifty on. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we are glad that you're here. Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
You bet.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump right into it. So we always like to start off with the abrupt question at the beginning. And when you're working with small businesses and especially talking to new clients, what's the biggest struggle you see with them when it comes to SEO and building a brand and brand awareness?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is honestly just making sure that they get the low-hanging fruit. So that's can be easy stuff like optimizing your Google My Business profile. That could be making sure that their technical issues are all resolved before, so like Google can properly crawl their website. And, making sure that it's a great user experience at the start. That's usually some of the first things we'll do with an SEO campaign for small businesses.
Perfect. And you know what? You helped us solve a problem we had from before. We could not remember the word crawl.
I was calling scroll.
So thanks for that. Yeah, I can see, we were talking earlier how SEO, it's this thing that people seem to oversimplify. Because they don't know anything about it, and they think it's like this, do it once and it's resolved forever, and then there's no more work involved. And Corey and I were telling people that is so far from the truth. Like, it's an ongoing, like, it's not a set it and forget it type of a thing. It is literally something that requires consistent attention in order to continue to move up the rankings and to really be optimized for searches.
Yeah, there are certain things that businesses can do that will help them and pay kind of dividends in the long term, such as creating content and having good sort of diligence and planning around doing that on a regular basis. But I would say that, like, as you're optimizing your website to rank well for searches over time, it's very much an iterative process, because you want to sort of test and learn whether or not each of those little pieces of effort that you're putting out are creating an impact. And one of the things that we see with small businesses and businesses of all size really is it's tough to connect the effort that they're doing with the results, because there's lots of different things that happen that drive organic results. So for example, you could have made some changes to your website to optimize some content for a particular keyword. And then at the same time or the same period of time, you might have, say, participated in some kind of sponsorship activity that got your brand out there in a different way. And so both of those things will have a positive impact on your organic rankings. But being able to sort of distill down the efforts that were strictly, through content to drive SEO requires using the tools and using the process in order to be able to measure effectively that you're moving the needle in a sort of intentional way.
Right. Yeah. We're looking usually at, different keywords, different use cases, like your guys' website. We're looking at different ways people are looking for coaching, different ways we're looking at consulting, and try and find that. And then about 6 months after we publish that content, we're going to reevaluate, figure out if it's working, if we need to go back and maybe adjust some strategy, maybe do some linking, maybe do some strategic blogging and get links to that to really boost the credibility and authority of that page. But yeah, usually it's about 6 months before you start seeing some big gains on the content, and then you're reevaluating, making a stronger case. It's just like, a fitness program. You're constantly improving yourself over the long haul, not just doing it once and then, all right, I'm buff for the rest of my life.
And that fitness program analogy is great because that's exactly what it is. Because we were talking before y'all came on about how you're always sending stuff for us to update. It's just kind of a never-ending thing. And then all of a sudden now I'm not saying freaking out, but stressing out a bit because you're like, oh, well, 6 months in, then we go back and re-review it. I'm like, oh, come on, man.
I was like, guess we're going to be rewriting some stuff.
Because we're at that 6 month mark. So.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. We're not going to have to reinvent the wheel every 6 months. Maybe we have to tweak a couple headings or tweak the meta title, meta descriptions, minor tweaks to see what we can do better. But it's not like all new content every 6 months.
What we're really struggling with is how does Corey keep breaking stuff every month that he...
That's one thing, like when Ryan, you were saying as you update things on the website, because this is the problem that we have every once in a while is we'll make updates and a link is no longer valid, or we'll do something like that, and you don't realize it because the link is on a page that is like a dark corner of your website that you never go to, and then all of a sudden it's showing up, and that's you get a ding from Google because you get a broken link on your page, but yeah, the all of the stuff, it's amazing how much when we first started. I just like, we'll update some content, we'll find some keywords, drop them in there, but no, it's like there's a ton of things that go into optimizing your page, and I was blown away, and still am every day at how terrible our site is, and I feel like we've been doing a good job at making it better.
I remember when we first started, when we first started SB Pace and we built the website out, we were committed to having a website that was one page. I think we have like 8,000 pages now on our website.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because SEO is something that you need to kind of do certain things in order to show up for results. But keeping the user experience the way that you want is often a challenge, right? Because as a business owner, you'd like your products and services to be presented in a way that's extremely simple for people, and so I think you can still approach SEO with a mind sort of leaning towards simplicity, but it may require multiple pages and sort of really focused pages that are related to certain keywords. But allow you to present your business or service through that kind of lens, and trying to maintain simplicity. But at the end of the day, you do end up with many pages, and that's just sort of the nature of the beast, I think.
Yeah, and to be clear, our website had many pages before we started working with you. It wasn't that all of a sudden you made us completely change our strategy. We sort of have this approach when working with people. Like, you guys are the experts in SEO. We aren't. If we were, we wouldn't have needed to hire you. And you guys are great. And so we trust your knowledge and your experience. And when you make a recommendation to us, we're like, okay, we're gonna listen and follow. So that was not a complaint or us saying our site was one page until we met y'all, and now it's 8,000. You probably really haven't increased our page count by all that much. That's always that's me.
We didn't take it that way, but it is something that we come across, often, is that the business wants to have the user experience and the need for SEO are often on sort of different sides of the seesaw, and finding that sort of equilibrium point where it feels right from a business owner perspective and a brand perspective, but it's also doing what's necessary in order to kind of get the SEO value that's necessary in order to grow the business. And we deal with that with almost all of our clients, where we're just trying to find that mix.
Right. And you don't have to have a horrible user experience where you have 10 million pages linked in your navigation. There's ways around it where you can just link to some of your SEO pages internally. So you could have like some main category pages and then, link out to those other SEO pages that you're creating. That way it's still a good user experience while also benefiting your SEO.
And when it comes to listening to experts too, I think that every small business, you start off and everybody has an opinion. And so if you looked at the original website that we had versus what it is now, and just the iterations over the past year and a half, it's been funny because we've had people who gave us their opinion for free, which generally speaking, I feel like a lot of those we probably shouldn't have taken that up.
Probably not. I agree.
Paid advice generally tends to be a little bit better. Generally, we've got burned a couple times too.
Yep, we sure have.
But yeah, we definitely appreciate it. And I, like Julie, well, you weren't on the front half. Julie's talking about. I kind of like the challenge where you give me a word count and you say, all right, and between 700 and 1,100 words, you need to fit all this information in there. I'm like, all right, I'll figure it out. It's like a puzzle.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it can be really fun to look at if you looked at the Wayback Machine on I think it's called Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
Right? And you can look at people's websites from years ago or months ago or whatever, and no matter what the website is, they all evolve over time, and that's kind of just part of the evolution of what people look for and what's necessary in order to keep pace.
Yeah. And it's definitely, the work that we've been doing with SEO, or even just, as our website has changed since we started, it's really representative, I think, of an entrepreneurial journey, right? You start out, and unless it's like your, third, fourth, fifth venture, when you're just starting, you're learning as you go. And, initially you don't have the big budget. So you are asking people for free advice and like, hey, what do you think about this? And there are times when maybe you ask too many people for their opinion and you're like, every decision by committee, but that sort of growth over time and improvement over time is what SEO is, right? You're doing it over time. It's improving and improving and improving. And that's the same with, being an entrepreneur. You're just improving and improving over time. And with each thing that you're doing and you're becoming more consistent, you get better at what you're going through.
Yeah, and I think a key sort of aspect of that is the measurement piece, right? And so, as an entrepreneur or as a sort of SEO campaign, you need to kind of have defined what you're trying to achieve, so that when you're doing sort of things that are helping you get to those goals, and that way you can do more of the things that are helping and do less of the things that maybe you're taking the time but aren't producing. And so that's why. Tools like we use SEMrush and we've used Moz or Screaming Frog, like things that can help us kind of get in there and use the best technology available to understand what's happening on the website from an objective point of view, not just looking at Google Analytics and saying, hey, organic traffic is up because we don't know if you sponsored a golf tournament that day and we look great one month and then the next month we don't look great anymore. Because the organic traffic's down, but in reality, it didn't have anything to do with us when it was up in that scenario. So we want to measure, how are you showing up in search results that are relevant to growing your business, and then as we know that you're showing up better and better, we can kind of tie that to efforts that are helping you get there. So the entrepreneur needs to know, he's making payroll, or she's sort of hitting her revenue goals, or able to hire new staff or whatever the case may be. And all those measurements are different, but in the same way, knowing that the efforts that you're making are helping you sort of move the ball forward, I think is really key.
Yeah, and I would say that the best SEO, you're seeing a need and you're filling a need. Like on one side, you have people actually using Google and other search engines to find something, whether they want to buy something or know something. And then you're just creating content on your website between blogs, service pages, product pages, whatever, to fill those needs. And that's what really the best SEO strategy is all about, is finding what people are searching for and making sure that you are able to connect with them in meaningful ways.
And one of the things that I'm finding out, and I'm finding out, Anthony, you and I are both finding out, like for instance, the company that hosts our website, they add an extra level of challenge in terms of what makes a site acceptable to Google, so to speak, and what looks bad. And then I know for like on the back end, there's a ton of stuff that I could do for every single little thing on the page, but I don't. It's like images, you need to add the SEO words behind it, like all that stuff. So what are some things out there, like, knowing what we do, which is right now in terms of SEO, like we're creating the pages with you, and then anytime that we're writing blogs and adding stuff to the website like that, like we're trying to be as SEO conscious as we can. But like, what else could we do, or could somebody out there do? What tools could they use to help improve their SEO without having to add a lot of content?
Yeah, so I would say the big thing that Google's focusing on right now is what they're calling their page experience or Web Vitals. So that is a free tool that they put out on Page Speed Insights, I believe it's called. And it's also on Google Search Console. These are metrics that include how fast your site is loading. Typically, you want your site to load faster than 2.5 seconds. You want to make sure your site's secure, HTTPS. You want to make sure that things aren't shifting around and creating bad user experiences. And you want to make sure that you are basically having good overall user experience. The website isn't creating those frustration points. I would say are the big things, and Google's really focusing on those. So we're heavily monitoring that stuff right now with all of our small business clients.
Do you find that Google makes changes as quickly and as significantly as like some of the social media platforms do in terms of sort of pulling the rug out from under their users or their vendors or suppliers, if you will, right? So I know like Facebook ads, like people have been freaking out about them for like 6 months now because of iOS 14. And I'm just curious, does Google tend to do the same thing where it's just all of a sudden these big sweeping changes and you're like, oh God?
Yeah, so Google's been a little bit nice lately. Sometimes they'll let us know when they launch out big algorithm updates, but for a couple of days after an algorithm update happens, sometimes I'm a chicken without a head, running around reading industry publications, trying to figure out what Google just did, because sometimes they won't tell us, sometimes they will. Ultimately, it's all about making sure that it's good. You're following Google's Webmaster Guidelines, creating good experiences, content that meets needs. And if you're doing that, usually you're not being negatively affected by Google algorithms, but sometimes, you got to adapt your strategy to the newest ranking factor or newest algorithm that Google's launching.
Yeah, ultimately, Google's in the business when it comes to search of providing people with the best possible answer to the question that they're asking. And so, there's companies out there who try to game that system, right? And they're trying to present the things that they think that Google wants to know in order to be qualified as the best answer in a way that isn't really like authentically, they're not really the best place to get that answer. And so Google's always kind of playing defense and trying to, fight that sort of, fraudulent or black hat kind of behavior. And so they changed the algorithms in order to continue to present the best sort of answer to the question. And they can't really tell everybody why or what they changed, because if they do, then the people who are kind of in the business of exploiting the system will just immediately pivot and change what they were doing to exploit it before to exploit it again. So, I think the point of that is that, if you're in the business of kind of answering the question that your business is in the business of doing, then you're always going to be okay. right? If you're not taking shortcuts and you're doing the right things and you're putting out content that addresses, the intent of people's searches, and those types of things, you shouldn't be hit over the head with Google's algorithm updates, which are frequent. But it takes a team to be making sure that you're pivoting as those like kind of micro adjustments come out and different things are emphasized in different ways.
Interesting. I'm curious, and I don't know if there's a simple answer to this, but if anybody would know the answer, it's going to be you two. What's the difference for a business owner in turning up in the first, 2 or 3 spots on a search after the paid ads come up first, right? And versus showing up on like the 3rd or 4th page?
Right. So there's the joke in the SEO industry that the best place to hide something is on the 2nd page of Google, because people are more likely to actually do a different search than click on the 2nd page. So I think, ballparking, there's about 90% of your click-through rate's going to happen on those first 10 results, that first page of Google. And then it, exponentially climbs the closer you get to that first position. So that's ultimately what we're trying to do with our small business clients, is get them ranking for the keywords that matter on the 1st, the 3rd result.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we've come a long way from, I remember way back when people on their websites, they would just drop in a bunch of SEO terms at the bottom, probably the same font color as the back of the web page, so that it just, you scroll down there, you're like, what are all these words for? Oh, none of them probably match what the site was for anyways.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just to get them ranked.
Yeah.
What do you, I'm curious, when you are working with, or have you have a prospect, somebody that calls you and you're talking to them, what's the, what do you use to help explain or convey the value of what you do, right? Because I think, SEO is confusing to so many people, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of complexities to it. And it's not, because I think as soon as people realize, like, it's not a 1 month, you just, pay us $100 and you're good to go, right? It's this ongoing expense that, people really need to understand the value. So how do you help people understand the value of what you do and what SEO can do for them?
Yeah, I think, most of our clients and most people who come to us to, explore the idea of doing SEO services, they seem to kind of have a baseline understanding of the value of organic search traffic. I think, most people who have a website, they know that the more organic traffic that you can get, the better off the business is. So kind of selling that aspect is not usually a challenge, or sort of conveying the significance. But when you get kind of into it and you see that it is a sort of more of a marathon than a sprint kind of thing. Continuing to make the investment requires somebody to really see how things are trending. And so I think a bigger challenge for us is to get the client on board with kind of doing what's necessary in order to have good SEO progress, which is sort of getting content live, making the changes that we're recommending, and kind of buying into the overall methodology and fitting it into their sort of the way that they operate, so that it feels natural and on brand and all those things, and yet achieves the SEO. Because once clients are kind of feeling the value of SEO, and their rankings are going up, their traffic's going up, generally their business performance is going up as well. So I think in that way it's pretty easy to convey the value. It's just more of a challenge to just kind of get them on board with what's going to be required in order to do it well, which is often not just things that we do.
Yeah, and I also say, it's important to get those quick wins sometimes, like cleaning up the technical problems that could potentially holding back your existing content while you're working on the new content. Getting your Google My Business up and running, that can really help for like localized businesses to get some quick wins on like Google Maps and stuff like that. So that you get those quick shots that aren't maybe going to have the best, of a huge impact, but they're gonna have a little thing so that the client feels like you are making progress while you're working on the big stuff like the content.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. And we have to start wrapping up. So before we go, can you tell our listeners how they can find out more about you?
Yeah, you can check us out on our website. It's FiveFifty.com. I think it'll be in the show notes or something. Yeah. So you can check us out there, and all the information about the business is there if you're interested.
Great. Well, thanks again, and thank you to our listeners. And like Ryan said, everything's going to be out there in our show notes, so make sure to check that out and check out their website. And if you want to work with us, make sure to reach out to us, and we can help you get your business, and then recommend somebody who can help you with SEO.
Yeah, we cannot recommend Ryan and Anthony enough. They are fantastic to work with, and they're really good at what they do, and they answer every stupid question we have, and we have a lot of them when it comes to SEO. You can connect with us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel. You can also reach us on sbpace.com.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, like us, and give us a review. We appreciate all the feedback on the podcast. And if you make sure to reach out to us about any topics that you might want us to cover, or if you want to be a guest, we've got a form on our website. Go check it out.
Yeah, and we have a book. It's called Seriously Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness, though my worksheet says disaster management. That is not the name of our book, Corey. It also has a digital workbook download. It's a #1 Amazon bestseller. And if you've already bought the book, please go back, rate it, and give us a review.
I'm going to say that was autocorrect. And I'm Corey.
I'm Julie.
And this was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America.